Here's the 1989 Lincoln Town Car. I've got the transmission oil cooler put on it. You can see I mounted it right up at that thing behind the grill there. I was able to get a good mounting position for it. I used a tubing cutter to cut off the old fittings, and I clamped the hoses to the transmission oil cooler to the transmission oil lines. And this is the way they are in the Grand Marquis, and I've had no trouble with them in 6 years of using an external cooler on this Grand Marquis, mounted in exactly the same way. The ends of the tubing were cut and the hoses clamped on. The fittings on here were actually leaking, so I decided to convert it just to a straight hose clamp connection. I got the title and registration for the Lincoln and got the new plates on it. Now I just need to take it for its inspection. I took it out for a test drive out on the roads, and I noticed I wasn't getting all that good a flow through the radiator hose, through the upper radiator hose. It was getting hot, but it didn't feel like there was much in there when I felt it after it had warmed up. And the temperature gauge was kind of fluctuating between mid-range and a little bit lower. So I wanted to replace the thermostat on this to make sure I had good flow coming out through the thermostat. I took off the outlet housing, which is over here, and they make this a real pain on this engine because the water pump there doesn't give you, it gives you hardly any clearance to get the nut off. I tried taking the distributor up and rotating it so the pickup coil terminal would be away from there to see if I could get a box end wrench on there and turn it, but I couldn't. I had to kind of get a socket on there 3/4 of the way to get that bottom bolt off, but I eventually did get it off. I'm going to try using a nut driver to put it back on and see if the shorter fitting on this nut driver will help fit on there better. So I've got a new thermostat, fail safe, got the gasket and Permatex gasket sealer, and also we've got all new hoses too. I think what I'll do is I'll just do a test with the old hoses. I'm going to fill it up with water, allow it to circulate, and then let it cool and drain all the water out. I drained the antifreeze out of it, and I think there was some transmission fluid in it. There was some foamy stuff in it. I don't think it's a head gasket leak because the exhaust is clean, but I think that's just that residual transmission fluid in there from when it had leaked from the cooler. And I'm going to put some Teflon tape on these plugs and tighten them up some more. So now I'm going to put the new thermostat in there and put the gasket on and put the housing back on. Now here's the thermostat. We've got the Permatex on, and so we're going to mount it back on there. I'm going to put the little button here so it's at the top of the output. I think I got it backwards here, but I'll make sure it's correct before I put it on. Got the unit put back on there. I had to turn this bottom bolt with my fingers till I could get it in far enough to get the nut driver on it and put the bypass hose back on. I did get a new one of those too. And we'll fill it up and just check for leaks. It's kind of getting dark now, so I may have to quit for tonight. I now have the Lincoln refilled up with just plain water in the cooling system. This is several days from when the first part of this video was made. It got too dark to show the rest of the progress that night. But I filled it up. I got the new thermostat and the gasket on there and the housing back on. And so I got it filled up with just plain water, and I let the engine run for about 20 minutes so it could circulate through there. Now I'm going to drain out the water, and I had to fill it up several times. I think there may have been air in the system, but finally the level stayed up good, and it's still good now, so I don't think we've got any coolant loss problems. I've got new hoses and antifreeze and new clamps, so I'm going to drain the system, then put the new hoses on and refill with antifreeze. So to do that, I'm just going to get the bucket and put it down under the lower radiator hose there and just take it off and let it drain out. The thermostat seemed to be working good, so I think everything's ready to put the new antifreeze in. Here's the liquid that drained out of the cooling system. I don't see any oil sheen on there, so I think we got all the traces of transmission fluid out of the cooling system. Just got some rust and stuff in there and dirt. So now I'm going to put the new hoses on and we can refill with antifreeze. I just got back from about a 20-minute drive in the Lincoln, and the temperature gauge has never varied from right above the L in normal. Coolant reservoir could use a little more topping off. I think a little more coolant got sucked in from the reservoir, but I'll double check it tomorrow morning. Let's check the radiator hose here. Looks like it's full and it's warm. Got good warm air coming from the radiator, so I know the radiator's working good. No leakage at the thermostat or anything. The only problem is that the heater is on constantly. I need to work on the blend door actuator on there. But it just drove like a dream. It was really smooth and quiet, and the temperature got up to right above the L mark and it never varied. Last time I took it out for a test drive when I was having trouble with the thermostat, the temperature was varying up and down, indicating the flow through the thermostat was probably intermittent, or there was air in the system causing the coolant level to vary. It never got much above it didn't really get above the A at all, but I knew that something wasn't right, so I wanted to just redo the whole cooling system. So I think it's in good shape now. I took off the alarm system. I got down under here and I was able to take that alarm module out, and the alarm module had identifiers on it for the wiring, so I was able to wire the wiring back like it should be. Also, the problem with the ignition turned out to be a bad contact between the ignition switch connector and the ignition switch. Now, I repaired it using some heavy-duty cable ties here. It's not the ultimate solution, but it keeps it together. And the problem was that the cable connector that plugs into the ignition switch had come loose. I think one of the tabs had broken off of it. So I just took this bottom part off of the steering column cover and was able to use the cable ties to fix that. And I think that's about it. I was getting air conditioning before the heater started going, so I think the AC system is good. I just need to fix that blend door. I think that's about it for the Lincoln. I think it's going to pass its inspection okay. The only thing is I need to check the high beams to make sure that they're working. There was something going on with the automatic dimming system, so I'm going to go out and check now. Make sure that the high beam switch is doing something. Let me see if it looks like they're on. That may just be the last little thing that needs to be fixed on this car. Well, they're not on now, so I'll just fix that, and then I think this car will be ready for the road. Now, here's the transmission oil cooler again. Let me feel it here to feel what kind of heat level we're getting from it. Feels warm, but not too terribly hot. I think we're getting effective cooling from it.